I'm Thomas Witherspoon of Asheville, North Carolina, and you're tuned to the International Radio Report, 30 minutes of news about radio on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. It is Sunday, July the 2nd. We say happy belated Canada Day to our Canadian listeners and a good 4th of July coming up to all our American listeners. My name's Sheldon. I'm here with Jill as usual. And if you'd like to reach us, our email is radioreport@yahoo.com. You can listen to our show live streaming or archived on the CKUT website, ckut.ca. Our Facebook group has 919 members. We welcome 2 new people this week, Joe and Jerry joining us. Look for International Radio Report on Facebook. And to listen to the show anytime you like, check out our YouTube channel with the current show and previous shows. Just look for International Radio Report on YouTube, and you can subscribe to the channel there as well. So it is a holiday weekend here in Canada, heading into the big American holiday. There are some radio-related things going on, particularly amateur radio-related, tying into that as well. First off, though, we continue to monitor the situation with potential disappearance of AM radios from new vehicles. Radio World magazine has been covering this in great detail, and they've been looking for comments from people and groups and organizations. They received a letter, some input from someone who both works and owns radio stations in Denver, Colorado. The headline is "Mandate the Quality of AM Receivers." It's a commentary by Ron Myers of KPLS 1510 AM in Denver. Dear radio colleagues, the law must specify standards concerning sensitivity and selectivity. We too are concerned about needed legislation to keep AM radio receivers in all vehicles, but also the quality of the receivers. The law must specify standards concerning sensitivity and selectivity. Otherwise, car manufacturers could retaliate by including junk AM receivers, which could do more damage than good, training listeners to avoid AM because they can't hear anything. While they're at it, Congress should also mandate digital AM receivers, thus encouraging AM stations to adopt such technology, enhancing the sound quality and help compete with FM and the internet. Sincerely, Ron Myers, KPLS 1510 AM, Denver. Something that no one's really talked about, quality of the radios. If they're looking at this as a cost saving of not putting AM radios in, but they suddenly are mandated to put them in, they could very well just throw something in that's, inexpensive and doesn't work very well and say, well, look, we put the AM radio there like you asked us to or told us to, but you didn't say anything about the quality. So I think his letter is right on point.
Definitely. I just look at all the junk AM radios in the consumer market, and I got a lot of them here, testing a lot of radios, and I can tell you, radios that the selectivity is so bad. And what prevents you from having junk like that in a car? And pushing the HD radio, why not? We're talking about how we don't hear about it anywhere. Well, how about mandatory HD capabilities also? Make it, the perfect radio in the car.
Yep. So I'm sure we'll hear more about this. I'm not sure what the reaction will be to this right away. It's gone to Radio World. I hope they've taken the time to send it to Congress as well and say, hey, you got to start looking at this. So next is you've got a story about, unfortunately, another shutdown of a shortwave service.
KVOH, the Voice of Hope, is shutting down. This is via Alan Pennington and Jose Jacobs in Glenn Hauser's World of Radio I.O. group. KVOH turns off its shortwave transmissions. Last night was the last transmission of the KVOH station, La Voz de Esperanza, Voice of Hope, from California on the frequency of 9975 kHz. Another great loss for listeners around the world. Maintenance costs are too high. Voice of Hope, a Christian broadcasting station, had been on the air on shortwave for over 4 decades. They had operated shortwave stations located in various parts of the world with other various names also like High Adventure Radio, High Adventure Broadcasting, High Adventure Ministries, Holy Land Broadcasting Network, King of Hope, Wings of Hope, etc. And call signs like KVOH, KHBN, T8BZ from USA and Zambia. KVOH was the organization's second station, created in 1986 and located at Rancho Simi Valley, 27 miles northwest of Los Angeles, California, USA. The transmitter was a 100 kilowatts RCA purchased from HCJB in Quito, Ecuador. Programs were in English and Spanish, beamed to the Americas. KVOH went off the air for a number of years but was relaunched on the 2nd of November 2013 after testing for some time. They were then using a 100 kilowatts Schaffner-Harris transmitter on 9975 kilohertz beamed to the United States, Canada, Central and South America, including Cuba and the Caribbean. They also used 17775 kilohertz at times. So it's sad. If you have a QSL card, hold on to that card now because another station is gone. I think, it shows how difficult times are in maintaining private shortwave stations in the United States, for sure. The money isn't there.
Yeah, I saw another report somewhere of one of the engineers from the station actually talking about the costs of keeping the old transmitter up and running, and it just got to be too much. These are stations that rely on donations in many cases from listeners, particularly these Christian stations. It's just sad that, a station that's been around as long as they have is just suddenly gone. And without really much notice, most people heard about it after it had already happened, that they had shut down. So anyways, if you did have a chance to hear them and you have them in your logbook, well, that's good. And maybe you have a QSL from them. I'm not sure if I have one, actually. I'll have to check my collection. I don't remember if I did get one from them.
I think I have one.
On to something a little more positive, and this is both for ham radio operators and for shortwave listeners as well, because I've done this, participated in this event for a couple of years now as a listener, and it's fun to try to log these stations. It is the annual 13 Colonies event, which is underway, actually started yesterday, and it will be running through until July the 8th from the American Radio Relay League. And this is via Eric Cottrell in his ham radio column for CIDX Club. The annual 13 Colonies special event began on July 1st at 1300, and it will conclude on July the 8th at 0400 UTC. The stations are representing the original 13 British colonies, plus 2 bonus stations that will be on the air with 1-by-1 call signs. The event sponsor stresses that participants do not need to work all 13 colony stations to obtain a certificate and do not need to work the 2 bonus stations for a clean sweep. All HF bands will be in play with the exception of 60 meters, and simplex on 2 and 6 meters is encouraged. All modes of operation may be represented. So this year will mark the 12th occurrence of this event. And these are the stations. All start with K2. So they're all 3-digit or 3-character call signs. For example, K2A in New York, K2B in Virginia, C in Rhode Island, D in Connecticut, E in Delaware, F in Maryland, G in Georgia, H in Massachusetts, I in New Jersey, J in North Carolina, K in New Hampshire, L in South Carolina, and M in Pennsylvania. Now the 2 bonus stations, one is Whiskey Mike 3, Papa Echo November. That one will be in Philadelphia. It is the call sign to commemorate the Pennsylvania colony's founder, William Penn. And the other bonus station is actually in the UK, and it is Gulf Bravo 13 Charlie Oscar Lima. So you got to look around, tune around the ham bands, use the spotting sites as well. Most of these stations are quite active, not continuously through the whole event, but some pop in and out from time to time. So you have to kind of be looking around. You've got quite a bit of time to do it. From now, you could start right away and go through until 0400 on July the 8th. And they're pretty easy to spot with those special 3 calls, K2 followed by the 1 letter. So check them out. It's kind of fun. There's always pile-ups, trying to work them. We were talking to Mickey Delmage the other night, and he has one of the certificates from, I think he monitored them. I don't think he worked them. But it's a very nice certificate you can get to mark this event, the 12th year that they've done the 13 Colonies event. So check it out.
I'll be chasing them, so you might hear Victor Echo 2 Zulu Zulu India in the mix somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's happening with our sun? Well, the sun is very active. There is a huge sunspot on the sun right now. Sunspot 3354 has been actually releasing now some solar flares, some big solar flares. So this is going to be continuing in the next few days. The sunspot is actually visible with the naked eye. If you have solar glasses, you can actually just put them on and look at the sun. You'll notice that the sunspot is there. It's big enough to be seen without any magnification. There is no significant coronal holes. So what's going to happen and what's going to decide what's going to be the conditions this week will really be the amount of flaring and what's going to happen. But when in between all of that, the solar conditions, the ionosphere is great. I mean, propagation is amazing. Good conditions when there's not too much flaring going on. But, the best way to know how conditions are is to turn on a radio and listen.
This is Glenn Hauser. You're listening to the International Radio Report. 30 minutes of radio news and information every Sunday morning on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
And we have another good story. It seems that a country and a shortwave service has reactivated.
Yes, Mali has been reported reactivated on 9635 kilohertz. So this is via Manuel Mendez, Lugo, Spain. This is via Glenn Hauser's World of Radio I.O. group. Radio Mali in Bamako, Mali, was reactivated on 9635 kilohertz, heard by Manuel in Spain from 1528 to 1542 UTC on June 27th. African Songs, ID in French at 1532. And 1538, Radio Mali, Bamako. Vous écoutez la Radio Nationale du Mali. And to add to this, a viewer of my YouTube channel that is in my shortwave group on Facebook posted a video and asked, could this be Mali on 5995? No ID, but definitely some African music. And I listened to it, and immediately after not even 10 seconds of just watching the video, definitely it's Mali. I remember what it sounds like. It's definitely Mali, also on 5995, around 05 UTC. So monitor also late afternoons, because they used to be around 20, 21 UT, 22 UT coming in quite well here on the East Coast. So that, I think, is going to be a good frequency to monitor, 5995. And, of course, 9635 kilohertz. This is good news.
Yeah, Mali's on the west coast of Africa, and it's got a good water path across to North America. I'm assuming they're just trying to service people in Africa in particular, particularly West Africa. A lot of French language potential for them there. The station, I remember in the past too, does play a lot of really nice African music. And I think were they not one of the countries that had transmitters that they got from China?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
So they may have reactivated those. There's been a lot of political disruption in Mali, so they may have shut things down for a little while. But, this is why you always, like Gilles always says, turn on the radio and listen. You have to keep tuning around. Things pop up that maybe had gone away for a while, or things disappear that should be somewhere, and when you're looking for them, it's not like AM and FM where you tune to a frequency and your station's going to be there. Shortwave takes a little more effort, a little more work, and exploration. It's fun to just tune around, go through the
Yeah.
different bands, see what you're hearing, use the different resources online to help you identify what some of the things are, because you will hear things in some foreign languages as well. Who knows? If you're tuning around, you may be the one that finds something that's back on the air or something brand new that we didn't know about. We certainly invite you all the time to post items on our Facebook page. Sharing information is really, really important. That's what this program is about. But it's not just up to us. You guys can really help us out with passing along information as well. Talking about listeners reporting things, this was something I hadn't heard about. I don't know how many people knew about this. By the reaction we saw from some other club members and whatever, it didn't seem like too many people knew about this. This comes from Tony Pavic, a CIDX member and host of the Pop Shop Radio broadcast on shortwave. He is out in Hope, British Columbia. A WeatherFax service from ZKLF in Wellington, New Zealand on shortwave has ended. Tony says, I was lucky enough to catch some WeatherFax from ZKLF Wellington, New Zealand on the 25th of June, just in time as well as their WeatherFax service announced they would be shutting down on July the 1st, 2023. From their webpage, it says, after decades of operation, Met Service will retire its RadioFax broadcast service from July the 1st. The Met Service isobaric mean sea level analysis and prognosis charts transmitted through RadioFax will, however, continue to be produced and available on the metservice.com website. Also on a low bandwidth page here, which is designed for users with more limited or paid data connections, such as via satellite, to minimize download size and cost. While the RadioFax service will cease from July the 1st, it is important to note that it is not used for the more safely critical oceanic high seas warnings and forecasts, which will continue to be produced and broadcast through all existing channels and services, including internet, email, radio broadcast, and satellite broadcast under the International Maritime Organization's Global Maritime Distress and Safety System. For more information about the GMDSS, see the World Meteorological Organization's WMO website for the Worldwide Met Ocean Information and Warning Service. RadioFax, also known as HF fax or radio facsimile, is an analog broadcast using high-frequency radio waves to transmit images over very long distances. The technology is almost 100 years old. You can learn more about the history of it on the Wikipedia page, actually, and was originally used by Met Service to transmit weather charts and images to other national meteorological services in the South Pacific, long before the arrival of the internet. Nowadays, RadioFax equipment is scarce and difficult to service, costly to maintain, especially transmitting equipment, and the technology has now been superseded by the likes of HF email or satellite-based internet, all key reasons for the retirement of the service. You do some monitoring of these WeatherFax stations, and there are still some others out there still being transmitted.
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few from the United States. Boston comes to mind as one of the major ones we hear here on the East Coast. There's ones from Northwoods Radio in the UK that I hear regularly. It was off for a while. It's back. I'm hearing Germany on a frequency that's supposed to be inactive, but it's definitely there, around 15788 kilohertz. And even here in the Arctic, Iqaluit sends out several ice charts for the Arctic in WeatherFax and, of course, Navtex transmissions. One thing that I would say about because I talked about the New Zealand one in one of my utility columns a few months back, is to continue to monitor frequencies even after they are announced to be dead. A lot of stations, especially in the utility world, sometimes some stations get back on the air for some reason. It could be that they overlooked a system and that finally somebody somewhere says, hey, I need those charts by HF. It happened actually to the U.S. Coast Guard They planned a few years ago to retire HF Fax weather broadcasts, eventually back off and say, no, we're not going to retire them. We had so many requests saying, no, you got to keep those on the air. They are still important for some out there. And today there's dedicated equipment, and that's probably what they talk here in the article for receiving the facsimile. But you can do it today with a computer, so it's not as bad as before and having special equipment.
You pick up the signal off the radio, but then decode it with software.
Yep, you got FLDG, which is great for that. You got Multi-PSK is also a good software for that. If you're using a tablet, you have on Android a great one, which is WeFax, I think it's called, or Droid WeatherFax. If you go to the Google Play Store, you'll immediately find it. On iPhones and iPads, I know that Black Cat Systems has a WeatherFax software also. And not complicated. You don't even have to, plug any audio cables. If it's just quiet, just the microphone of your phone or tablet can decode off the audio of the speaker of the radio.
Yeah, it's really neat. I've done some of that way back when I had a dedicated decoding device I used to use for different types of digital communications. And it's pretty neat to see these charts come across. It's like the old fax machine where you had a picture coming through on the fax machine. Well, you're just having that come to you via radio. So it's a pretty neat system. And I think, like you said, some of those stations may keep those transmitters and those systems as a backup in case other things fail. It's always good to have them on standby if you need them again.
One of the best lists, we'll share the link to that, NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration of the United States, maintains a worldwide HF WeatherFax list in PDF format. They update it twice a year. It is probably the most accurate.
And you should get a plug-in for your utility column in our CIDX club every month. You have a lot of these services that we're talking about now, where you talk about and feature them in detail in your column each month.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I focus on countries or on specific areas. Like for July, we have a lot of the frequencies, since it's the time now for the Canadian Arctic Voice Navtex WeatherFax broadcasts. And we feature a lot of those signals that a lot of people don't know what it's all about. And it's fun because, there's the shortwave broadcast side of shortwave, but there's a host of other mysterious signals out there that I try to feature as many as possible from around the world in the utility column.
Yeah, if you tune across the band, sometimes you'll hear all kinds of strange sounds and noises, and you wonder, what is all this stuff? Most of it does mean something. It's some sort of communications that are going on that are not voice communications, and you do need tools to be able to decode some of them. Some of them are not decodable as well, but a lot of them are. So if you'd like a sample of our CIDX monthly bulletin, which includes Gilles' utility column called World of Utilities, info@cidxclub.ca, info@cidxclub.ca, and we'll send you off a free sample bulletin to take a look at Gilles' column and all the other columns that we have every month in the monthly newsletter that goes out.
So in our next story, we have a Tunisian radio presenter detained after criticizing the president. Via Radio Info Africa, prominent Tunisian radio journalist Zied Henny was detained late on Tuesday after a judge ordered him to be held in custody ahead of his trial on a charge of insulting President Kais Saied. The detention fuels concerns over free speech in Tunisia since Saied seized extra powers in 2021, moving to rule by decree, assuming authority over the judiciary. Henny was interrogated in the absence of lawyers. What happened is a farce that enhances the dictatorial approach, Henny's lawyers Dalila Ben Barak told Reuters. Henny, the presenter of a daily radio program on Radio IFM, has not commented on the allegations of insulting the president, which carry a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. Judges have detained or opened investigations into more than 20 political judicial, media, and business figures with opposition ties over recent months, accusing some of plotting against state security. The main opposition parties have decried the arrests as politically motivated, and rights groups have urged authorities to free those detained. Said has described the detainees as terrorists, criminals, and traitors, and says judges who free them would be abetting their alleged crimes. Free speech is one of the key reforms that Tunisians won after the 2011 revolution that toppled dictatorial President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali, but activists, journalists, and politicians said this freedom is once again under threat. Said rejects accusations of targeting freedoms and says he will not be a dictator. So more problems in a country that we thought was kind of freeing themselves from dictators and all of those problems is kind of coming back again. And of course, who are hit first? Radio, journalists, all the people that basically want to express freedom of speech.
Yeah, this is pretty severe. Maximum penalty of 5 years for even insulting the president.
Yeah.
If that happened here, we'd have a lot of people in jail for a very long time for insulting politicians. Not just politicians insulting other politicians, but people in general. It's a tough business out there, but
Yeah.
this is serious stuff though going on there. Did look like they were moving away from that, and looks like the whole vehicle has been put into reverse.
So we have upcoming ham radio contests.
I have a couple things coming up this next weekend. The IARU HF World Championship. It's a big one. 1200 Zulu July 8th to 1200 Zulu July 9th. It's organized by the International Amateur Radio Union and the American Radio Relay League. The contest objective to support amateur self-training in radio communications, including improving amateur operating skills. That's an important one.
Yep.
Conducting technical investigations and intercommunicating with other amateurs around the world, especially IARU member society headquarters stations. The bands 1.8, 3.5, 7, 14, 21, and 28. It is both phone and CW, and contact stations only once per band and mode. So once you've got them, you move on to another band and another mode.
There's the QRP ARCI Summer Homebrew Sprint, 20 hours Zulu to 23 hours July 9th. This is organized by the QRP Amateur Radio Club International. 160 through 10 meters, CW, and low power, QRP only. And there's a special event station here in our own city of Montreal. Well, in southern Quebec, there's the Jazz Fest that we have, the International Jazz Festival. And I came across by accident that station, which is Victor Echo 2 Jazz. And they are on the air until July the 8th. And they, of course, have also a special QSL card. And that's kind of nice if you want to try to contact our own Jazz Fest amateur station.
That's pretty neat. I think that guy has been doing that for quite a few years, actually. The Jazz Fest is a big event here in Montreal. It is an international event and a lot of fun. So do check him out. VE2JAZZ is the call sign to look for.
And we are out of time.
We thank you for tuning in today. We hope you'll tune us in again next week and every week into the future. You can reach us by email on our Facebook group and check out the show on our YouTube channel as well. Have a great rest of the long weekend here in Canada, and July 4th celebrations coming up in the U.S. We will talk to you again next week. Oh, should have mentioned. Pirate activity coming up for July 4th, more than likely. Check the pirate frequencies as well for July 4th, 3rd and 4th probably. Talk to you again next week. Thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in the city of Montreal.
Bye-bye, everyone.